working with the local church to take the hope of Christ to every student in the United States. This is First Priority. Now here are your hosts, Steve Chirico and Brad Schelling.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the First Priority Podcast. My name is Brad Schelling, and I am glad that you're here today. I have with me today, this is going to be an exciting episode because I have the president of First Priority of America, Mark Robbins, with me. Mark, welcome to the show.
Hey, Brad. Thanks for having me.
There are a lot of good things happening in First Priority right now. But before we jump into all of that, because we've got a laundry list of things we can talk about.
Absolutely.
But introduce yourself for those who may be new to the show, haven't heard of you before, crawling out from underneath whatever rock they're living under. Introduce yourself, tell us about who you are, where you are, and family.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Mark Robbins, obviously a big fan of First Priority, been doing this a long time. Started out as a director in one of the oldest chapters in the country, actually, that is still going today. Just over the years, seen God do a lot of really cool and exciting stuff. So love being a part of this. It's been a calling and passion all my life for years, and just feels like it gets fresher and newer every day. So
wake up every day, do the next thing, right?
Good stuff. Yeah, good stuff. For me, I mean, Michelle and I celebrated 36 years of marriage.
Congratulations.
This past year.
That's awesome.
3 wonderful children that are all married, and we have 3 grandchildren and 2 new ones on the way.
Woo!
Yeah, we're going to get a new one in July and August of this year, so that'll put us 5. And we're excited about that. So family's doing well.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. Do clubs get a start in August, or do they have to wait till September to wait till the babies are here?
No,
so you can have some family time.
Yeah, no, clubs need to go.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to go.
All right.
Right.
Sounds good. Well, congratulations.
Exactly.
That's awesome. 3 to 5.
Exciting. Yep.
That'd be good.
Getting a grandson out of this deal too, so be our second one, which is awesome.
Yeah.
3 granddaughters.
3 granddaughters, 2 grandsons.
Yep.
It'll be excellent. Yeah, 2 of your kids, this is their first.
It is, actually. Right.
Morgan and Micah.
Morgan and Micah, yes.
Yep. Awesome.
Yep.
Very good. Well, give us a little update about what's happening in the world of First Priority currently.
Well, man, as you know, and hopefully a lot of people know, if you've been looking at any social media, we have hit 1,000 clubs.
Right.
Which is exciting. Yeah, I mean, you think about that, it's like, man, 1,000 schools with 1,000 students meeting every week, trying to impact their friends with the gospel is just, that's a big milestone for us and a big event in the world of First Priority.
Yeah, and it's fun to watch it too. It was last Thursday that I realized it was going to hit 1,000, seeing the numbers start to come in from February. Monday it was 1,006, what we're celebrating. And then as of this recording, I mean, it's up to 13 already, 1,013. So it just keeps growing. People keep reporting. You never know. Check the socials, whatever day you're listening to this, and see maybe we're posting a new number up there of another club that's getting started.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's just exciting to see that and see what God's doing. So who knows what the rest of the school year is going to bring.
It's true, because I don't have all the precise numbers on my top of my head, but 5,500, 600 student leaders have been trained.
Somewhere around there, right?
So 5.5 students per club are being trained to lead those clubs. And we've already seen 7,000, what did Christina say this morning? 7,200
plus, yes.
Plus students come to know Jesus for the first time this school year. Simply amazing.
It is.
It's amazing.
It's incredible. So, and we've got a lot of areas that are growing, some of the new places. One of the things that's exciting to me is some of the older organizations that are out there that have been doing this for decades. They're seeing just a fresh move of God in some of their areas. They're expanding. They're taking on new territory. They're just a lot of good stuff going. It feels like God is just really doing something special through First Priority right now.
I would agree. I mean, we can tell stories all day, right? Birmingham is celebrating 25 years.
Right.
Going back to Shades Mountain Baptist Church. If anybody was around for a long time, they know that church and they know that story, and they're heading back there where this started 25 years ago with those business guys and Benny, right?
That's exactly right.
Hearing the story, celebrating the years.
That's where the first seed was planted.
Chris and Fred down in South Florida, more south. I mean, they're going at it. They're one of the older ones, 250, 300, depending if you're counting the elementary schools in there, some of that things. One of our more recent ones, Tampa, I think they're 92 clubs.
And growing.
They were hitting 60 pre-COVID. Now they're, 32 more since COVID.
Right. Yeah, you got JD down in Mississippi. I think he's hitting 24, 25 years. So it's just a lot of what speaks a lot to even the faithfulness and commitment of our leaders out there, people that have just done this for years and stayed with this call in their life and seen God really transform their schools and their communities. It's just incredible.
It's fun to watch, right?
It is.
It's fun to watch Justin move from Nashville to Cincinnati and start a new area.
Mm-hmm.
And he just went from 5 to 15 clubs because a couple churches got involved and said, hey, we want every one of our campuses to be part of a new school. And, different things like that. Jeff moving from South Florida to Springfield, Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
He hired his first guy to join him. He's growing, trying to get more clubs going down there. So even the new stuff it's not just the 25-year-old guys, right? It's
not
the 3-month-old guys.
Kansas City, Fort Worth, Northeast Tennessee, all those places are fairly new, but just seeing God do some really good stuff. People are coming on board. We're finding a lot of Christian business leaders and people out there that want to get behind this because they know it's going to make a difference in their community. So
that's right.
It's awesome to watch that.
That's right. Well, we can segue right through that into our topic of the month is business leaders and community leaders and the role that they play. We talk about our essential networks. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we just celebrated students, right? Student leaders are there. Those students have coaches, usually a youth pastor or a parent or somebody. They've got a teacher sponsor that opens the room. We network parents because we know that, especially in middle school, they're running minivans or doing whatever to get their kid to school early or staying late to do those things. But then the business community is that fifth and final network, at least in the order that I just listed them off in.
Right.
And they're crucial to this movement happening.
They are.
A big difference in what we do.
They are. I mean, I go back even when I started this years ago, there's Dr. Edwin Robertson, who's went on to be with the Lord, was just a king, if you will, in our community that saw the need and saw had a passion for this and helped gather his peers and folks together to raise funding so guys like me and others could go unite the church to do this in our community. And it's just those people, I think, biblically are a key component to what we do. Mm-hmm. And we certainly see that. If you're working inside a first priority area, those kings and queens and key influencers they're invaluable to the success of first priority.
They are. They're sitting on the boards, right? There's many boards around First Priority of America, whether they're advisory or, 501c3 governing boards. But Edward, he was your king. He was the guy who helped get you places and helped you raise money and but he's still the one. You're not with Tri-States anymore, but Tri-States is still moving forward because his son now has taken that mantle and said, hey, I believe in this too.
Right.
And is making sure that the gospel is going forward in those schools in that area, even though you're not playing that role anymore.
That's exactly right. And you make a good point because, we say this often and, in conversation, but it's those people that, that own the car dealerships, that own the dry cleaners, that are vested and rooted in their community and their city. They have as much interest, if not more, in seeing the kingdom of God go forth to reach their city. So, you combine those folks with church leaders and pastors and parents and the other networks that we have, you get a good blend of that, and you can have a very successful organization and ministry that's reaching a lot of kids.
I agree. I bet in Birmingham as well, the 5 or 7 guys that Mark Roberts always talked about back in the day will be in the room.
I'm sure they will. We actually are still connected to a couple of those folks at FPOA.
Yeah.
That still are supportive of us and watch, behind what we're doing, trying to expand this thing across the country. So those key influencers and business leaders they're just vital.
They are. I think I rattled through the directors in Birmingham the other day, and I probably missed one. You know better than me, but it went from Benny to Mark and Todd, to Greg, to Matt, to Greg, to Debbie.
And I think there was another guy in there, maybe John.
You're right. I think right when I started, there might have been another guy that I didn't get to meet.
It was at least 5 or 6 of them. Yes.
But they've come and gone, and they're not all gone as far as they still love First Priority. They still support. I think Matt's on the board.
He is.
With First Priority down in Birmingham. So it just moved into a different role, but that group of people is still making sure that on 100 plus schools in Birmingham, the gospel is going forward.
That's exactly right. And I think that's just, it's one of the unique things about First Priority is the fact that we go in and spend time to build relationship and connections with those people who are the business and community leaders, because they're around, they're going to be there.
Yeah.
Their grandkids are in this, their children have been in this. So, you know, and I don't say this critically, but pastors get called to other churches, youth pastors get called, but it's those kings and queens and business leaders that are there, and they want to see their city and their community thrive in terms of spiritual things. And so that's a very important piece of what we do.
I feel like I was just talking about this on a podcast recently with Steve for some reason. So I feel like this is a little bit of deja vu about raising funds, business people, because, and if I had just told this story last week on the podcast, I apologize. But yeah, my dad was a construction business owner in town. 2007, I had to raise some support to come on and be a part of it, raise some funds. And yeah, he connected me, and I never thought about meeting with my dentist before, but you know, he knew that my dentist was passionate about church unity, and so he directed me over there. He connected me to a guy who ran a franchise company, and you know, hey, now he's still 17 years later supporting us and me with that. And I would have never dreamt of sitting in the office of a CEO of a major, you know, Fortune 500 type company. But there I was sitting in that office, sharing my heart, my burden for lost people. And it's because a business owner, who happened to be my dad, connected me with one who connected me with the next. And, you know, it does remind us of the story of Nehemiah, that we have a dream. We want to rebuild the walls, the spiritual walls in our communities. But it's the kings who also say, hey, here's a path you probably need to go, because they know the ins and outs of that community.
That's exactly right. And you know, the other thing is, I think sometimes we think of, you know, about those people in the communities, but, you know, as we're expanding and growing across the country, you know, I'm starting to meet more and more folks. I just met someone today who is, you know, thinking about who they can connect me with, maybe in a new market or in a new area, or someone that could be on our national board, or, you know, all those types of things. So it's the connectors and the relationships that you can get out of that. And I think, you know, business and community leaders need to really see their value in that, because sometimes it's not about writing a check to a ministry like First Priority. Sometimes it's about who can you connect us to.
Correct.
And that can benefit the organization in other ways. So,
yeah. And we don't talk about it as much in some of the other networks. We do a little bit with youth pastors, because we talk about networking in the youth ministry. And that's often, as a youth pastor myself, that's where my mind goes, right? Our minds go to what we know. I know ministry, and that's what the world I lived in. So I'm constantly thinking about, okay, who are the other, you know, in Sioux Falls, Reformed Church guys? And who else did I always played well with? The AG guys, the Assembly of God guys as well, and a few of the Baptist guys. And we had in the larger group, we had a smaller group of people that really just connected, right? And that's there. But yeah, the business guys do the same thing. The parents, we often don't talk about that.
They do.
You know, in Spring Hill, Tennessee, where I live, I can tell you who, you know, the parents in this scout troop are, or the soccer team or the football team, because my kid's been playing in it since, I mean, Josiah's 23, you know, so they've been doing this we've been there for, how long have we been there?
A long time.
2011. So 12, 13 years, you know, and so we know parents that a new youth pastor in town might not know, or a new director and stuff. And so networking through those relationships, I'd love to connect you with other people in town that might have that similar interest.
Yes. And sometimes we think that can be just somewhat insignificant, but it's not, you know, in a lot of cases. I still live, you know, because we're decentralized, I do a lot of travel, but I still run into some of those original people, you know, that said, hey, I'm going to do $2,500 a year to this because I believe in it. And they're still there today selling insurance or running a car wash or whatever, you know, they're there and they're still believing what we're trying to do 20 plus years later, because, you know, most people in the world we're in today realize that what First Priority is trying to do is a spiritual solution to what's a spiritual problem. And I think there's a little bit of a movement with that. I'm sensing that. I was in Springfield with some new relationships last week, and, you know, a couple of guys are like, wow, you know, they knew kind of what we did, but when I was telling them how it's working and what God is doing, they're just like, you need to meet this person. You need to talk to this person, you know? So I think what's exciting to me right now is I feel like the Lord is really doing something significant and unique and spiritual in terms of relationships with First Priority. So it's awesome to watch it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is cool. I didn't prompt you for this question, but a new director, and we have a few new directors, so maybe you can think about them while you're answering this question. But somebody new to First Priority, entering in maybe on a ministry level, they're working in a club or they're working in a network area coordinator. What would you say to encourage them? Because that is kind of intimidated. I was intimidated coming in, having to make some phone calls and to network, whether it was for raising money or for pure networking to say, hey, I need to get to the town next door and this guy knows a few people. What would be that encouraging word to them that you would give?
Yeah, that's a great question because I think, and I have to be honest, I'm kind of feel like I continue to grow in that myself, just because, when you first start out, you're like, hopefully, God's called you to do this. You've embraced that, but then it's kind of understanding when you have to walk through the doors and you have to knock on the doors and things like that. But at what point do you trust God? You just go do what he's called you to do. You build the relationship, you make the ask, whether that's for funding or for a campus coach or for whatever that is. And you have to just eventually trust God. I think the other thing I would say is to be confident in, what it is you're saying and how you're approaching people, because First Priority, all in all, is we say it's unique, but it's layered. So it's not, you talk about an elevator speech, sometimes that's hard to do. Because, you get, especially, this, you get excited. You've been doing this a long time and I need to talk about this. I need to talk about that. I need to talk. So I think just getting in front of people and giving them the opportunity to come alongside of what you're doing, whether that's coaching a club, sponsoring a club, whatever, being a donor and doing what God's called you to do and making those appropriate asks and then allowing the Lord to move in that. And I've grown in that myself personally over the last few years because this is God's work.
That's right.
It's his work.
That's right. Well, and I would say to focus in on what God's called you to do. If God's laid somebody on your heart. That's number one. If he's laid somebody on your heart and that person is on your list, hey, I need to call this person. Don't allow your own fear or inhibition, or that might not be the right word. I don't know what the right word is, but your vain imagination is a word that I used a lot back in 2007 and 8 and 9 when we were starting. It's my own vain imagination, right? It's human nature.
It's your flesh. Don't let your flesh and yourself get in the way.
Because I was picturing your wife ran a business for many years and how busy she was and even how busy that caused you to be and helping with that. And it's not that you didn't want to be a part of whatever somebody was calling you about. It's just you had to do your job and your wife was doing her job and you were helping her do her job. And you had to stay focused. You do. And so if it's taking you a few phone calls, don't be discouraged by that. Don't allow that vain imagination, that flesh of ourselves to come, hey, God laid this person on your heart.
That's right.
Or somebody told you, even if it wasn't God, we can over spiritualize that sometimes.
We can.
Right? My dad told me to call my dentist. Just call the dentist and set up a meeting. And if they don't answer right away, that's okay. That doesn't mean they don't like you.
That's right.
Just give them a call. God's got this in a plan and in his timing. 17 years later, we talk about that all the time. 17 years later, you'll be an overnight success, right?
That's right. Well, you make another really good point there too. And I think that's something we have to think about with the business leaders, the supporters of First Priority, whether it's in a local market or corporately at FPOA, the value that they need to see in themselves of how important it is that they connect people. So when you're thinking about our directors and coordinators and people out there, having those monthly supporters and those people that are already bought into what you're trying to do, whether that's in Fort Worth or wherever, is having that coffee with them and going, hey, who else do you know that might want to be involved in this or that would love to hear what we're doing? I had really great conversations about that in the last couple of weeks with guys, and they're just sitting there going, you need to talk to this person because this needs to be in their city and they can help you find the people that can make this happen.
That's right. That's right. The words of Larry Franks, the great Larry Franks, comes to mind as you're talking is you are worth it, your cause is worth it, and the kids that we will reach are worth it.
Amen.
Getting out there, making it happen.
That's so true. That's so true. And I, not to get on this too much, but as you know, a couple of years ago, I had a little health situation. And one of the things I learned out of that, and I actually had a couple of donors and board members just remind me in the right way, this is not about me or you.
Yep.
It's about God.
That's right.
And all we can do is make the best decision with the information we have at the time with things. And all we can do is put it out there for people to have an opportunity to get behind this, and
That's right.
then let the Lord direct them and direct their steps.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Well, thank you for joining me today.
It's awesome.
As we close this podcast out, we got a couple announcements. We got a couple things coming up that we didn't make at the beginning of the show, so we'll make them now, right?
Right.
Spring meetings coming up.
Yep.
May. I don't remember all the things. Go to social media.
Click the links.
Second week of May. First and second week of May.
Yeah.
We have one in South Florida.
We do.
Down, Chris and Fred are hosting us down there. We've got one in Decatur, Alabama. Larry's hosting us over there. And then we're doing a spring meeting in Nashville for those who are running Traction and that operating entrepreneurial operating system. It's the annual meeting for Traction. And I'm being very careful with that to say there's not a divide between chapter spring meetings or district spring meetings or anything like that, because there are a number of chapters that are starting to run Traction. And so if you're a chapter director out there, you're somebody who wants to even learn how to do that, annual meeting might be a great place to say, hey, I'm going to I can use all the Traction lingo, put my VTO together, start running level 10 meetings and quarterly rocks, annual goals, all the stuff.
Right.
That annual meeting can help set that up for you, evaluate the whole school year.
Yep.
And get you going from there. So that's the third week in May. If you want to be part of that, email me, brad@fpofamerica.com, and we can go from there.
Yeah, those are great. So I encourage everyone to be a part of those if you can.
It's a good time for relationship, evaluation. We're going to talk a lot about the app, the new Epic materials coming down for next year.
Which is exciting and doing very well.
All the things. It's doing very well. It's a lot of good things coming for this fall.
It is.
So a new partnership with Operation Christmas Child, doing some shoe boxes.
That's fantastic.
It should be good. Yeah. Scholarships, I think, is the last thing I've got on there. You got anything to say about scholarships?
Oh, no. All I know is I'm so excited we're doing this and that we've had, someone financially put this opportunity out there, because you know this and I know this, man. We have seen some incredible students over the years.
Amazing students.
Come through this program and change their school, change even their home environment. God's used them in tremendous ways, and to reward some students for faithfulness to the Lord and outstanding Christian leadership inside their school, to me, is just hugely significant and a game changer. So I think it's awesome. We're
giving away $25,000 in 11 different scholarships. So from $5,000 to $1,000 and everything in between. So
that is
get those. If you got seniors leading, whether it's their first year or their seventh year leading a first priority club, get those applications in by April 15, and we'll go from there.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Mark, for being on.
Thanks for having me.
It was a great show. Thanks everybody for listening. Until next week, we will see you later.